Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for the question. Let me just give some background to this before I specifically answer the issues raised. Madam Speaker, the movement and relocation of people is not only, it is a global issue, Madam Speaker, and that is why we had the World Humanitarian Summit last week in Turkey. Because there are a lot of movements, and as a result, there needs to be relocation as well, because of conflicts and of course because of disasters as well. So let's not isolate Fiji's case. It is a global phenomenon, and it's a gruesome and a challenging, and it's a long process as well. Secondly, Madam Speaker, why do we have to relocate, particularly post-disasters? We don't want to rebuild under the same level of risks. Worst case, if there are no other options, then we will have to rebuild, but then we'll have to look at whether we reduce or transfer or live and manage within that high-risk area. But preferably, if there are opportunities, we need to avoid rebuilding under the same level of risks. The responsibility, Madam Speaker, we have an interagency committee that looks after relocation, and this committee is headed by Ito KFS, simply because Fijian villages are demarcated and gazetted, and they are the lead agency, and the members of the committee are Ito KFS, they lead the committee, and assisted by Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Lands, because we need to do geotech surveys as well once the communities have given approval. And of course, we have the Ministry for Infrastructure, particularly on roading and water, and if need be, electricity, Madam Speaker. And of course, the Ministry of Health, because of health issues, and of course, the communities themselves. And most importantly, in terms of livelihood, we have agriculture and fisheries, fisheries and forests, and of course Ministry of Agriculture as well. Because in relocation, if you don't consider livelihood, most relocations will not be sustainable. So that is the responsibility. And the process, it's a long process, Madam Speaker. Government can identify the level of risk, but in most cases we don't have to define this to our communities because they are already living and experiencing the risks themselves. But usually in relocation process, the approval has to be from the communities. They have to indicate that they are willing to relocate. And for that, Madam Speaker, the next question is where do we shift them to? And for that, the landowning unit is identified, and then the landowning unit has to consent as well. And after the landowning unit has given their consent, then the Ministry of Ito KFS can start the process together with the interagency committee that I have mentioned, Madam Speaker. And that process involves geotech survey, where Ministry of Lands ensures that the area is safe. They look at all the normal technical scoping work, Madam Speaker, and then infrastructure comes in, water, electricity, roading, and then health issues, livelihood, as I've explained, and thus the membership of the committees, Madam Speaker. And then it's undertaken as a normal development program. Again, development is in partnership, responsibilities of the communities, and of course responsibilities by government as well. Post-Winston, Madam Speaker, about 63 villages have been identified and have also indicated their willingness to relocate. Out of that 63 villages, Madam Speaker, 36 have gone through what we call the initial process, where they have consented, and Ito KFS has moved in to do the village boundary survey, which will lead to the demarcation and then the swearing in by all the landowning units. We've done that with a few villages. There are still 27 left. to go through that process. And that will, this is work in progress, Madam Speaker. So we will look at the continuation for the 27 villages that are remaining. And on the answer on the housing reconstruction, no reconstruction, the long-term reconstruction has taken place. But the fact that, Madam Speaker, this is work in progress. Some of the villages, Sinwada, for example, they have moved into the new site. But then this is done in stages. What we must also understand, Madam Speaker, in post-recovery operations, we mainly divided into three main phases. One is the initial response. It's about saving lives. We declared 60 days emergency period. We concentrated on saving lives. And then after that 60-day period, the next stage is about sustaining lives. Provision of kumala cuttings, seeds, and then rehabilitation, small rehabilitation work, so that they can just sustain. And then the last phase, Madam Speaker, which is a long process, is the rebuilding lives. That is where the reconstruction of homes, permanent homes, better homes, will start, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary question, the Honourable Vandey.
I thank the Minister for the answers. What we are worried about is the issuing of the 7,000, 3,000 and 1,500 now, and the plans that they had now. There are conflicts in the villages, especially in the Koro Island and the Overlow, because they have been issued with the money to buy their building material. And they are the ones being identified to be relocated. What sort of plans for them if they build a house now, come the approval that they have to be relocated? Who's going to shift or rebuild their homes again? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The villages, the communities themselves, they know their current position, Madam Speaker. If there are any doubts, they refer to the interagency committee headed by the ITOKFS. But this allocation, this 7,000, particularly for, that's the sustaining life that I'm talking about. It's about that phase. We need people to be under roofs. And for some, it's the permanent. Some have opted just for a temporary shelter again for their sustenance. Now, the new homes, again, subject to confirmation with the committee, that is the rebuilding process. The PDNA for the members of this Honourable House has been completed and has been submitted to Cabinet as well. And likewise, right now the process of the recovery framework is also going through Cabinet. So that will detail the rebuilding lives concept, and housing is included in that, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the Honourable Samuel Vunivalu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in regards to relocation of villages after the tropical cyclone Winston, do the community or those who are affected during the cyclone also contribute in terms of reconstructions and rebuilding? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the question, Honourable Vunivalu. It is indeed a very relevant question. I did indicate that relocation, once we have gone through the process, is just programmed under any other normal government development programs. And like all other government development programs, it is work in partnership. Government has its responsibility, communities have their responsibilities as well. Housing, it's just a normal housing. So if their houses are completely destroyed, then government has made a commitment to that. But in other development works like, I'll use Bundonglo as an example, Madam Speaker. When the villages, the processes have been completed, then we sat down with the community. What can you offer? They have logs, Madam Speaker, and they provided their logs. And Badurali was, it's a government, private sector, and community partnership. And forestry did the logging coup and determined the amount of logs to be. So they provided the timber, the logs, sorry, and then Badurali provided the processing, and FNU, their students, did the construction, and then Fisheries and Forest did the fish pond, and agriculture did the pineapple plantation. I've talked about livelihood, and so it's work in partnership. And the major partnership, which is the main responsibility of the community, is just to provide the land for relocation. That's the first and most important of all the requirement from the communities. And right now, the 27 that are on hold, some of them we are still to get the consent from the landowners where the relocation will need to shift to. So that's, they have a role, Madam Speaker, they have the responsibility, and they should contribute as well, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honorable Joseph Ndulaki Garata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Minister for his reply. If government wants any piece of land for national development, the government will acquire the land and pay compensation. In the case of rehabilitation in the villages or extension of the village boundary, does the Ministry of Fijian Affairs pay compensation to the relevant landowner, or what is the arrangement? And when the land is being taken, what status the land is held on? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Member for the question. We have not come across a case where the landowners have asked for compensation because it's about them. But Minister for ETOK-FS can provide further information of that, and if the Honourable Member can direct that question to the Honourable Minister. But the short answer, Madam Speaker, is again, as I've stated, this is their responsibility. If it's a development that does not include the communities as the main beneficiary, then probably that is where the compensation factor comes in. But if it can be referred to the ETOK-FS Ministry, because they had this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And I give the last question to the Honorable Ratu Kinwila Mekele Ratu. Hey, he's gone. Which one of the two? I think I will give the question to the Honorable Bulitabu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Minister just said that there are 63 applications, 27 pending, and the budget last year, only 2 villages were named to be relocated. I think now he has confirmed that this is just for sustainability, then they'll be building permanent homes. And if another cyclone comes, those temporary homes will be affected too, Madam Speaker. The problem, Madam Speaker, that there is many applications, but can the Minister confirm how will the Ministry manage to attend all these applications, given the limited budgetary allocation in the 2016 budget?
Reconstruction. Madam Speaker, thank you. Housing, Madam Speaker, let me make it clear to the honourable members of the House that we are responsible for building our own homes. And the rural housing scheme under the Ministry of Rural Development, when applicants submit their requests, that is one of the criteria. They will be asked if they can provide their carpenter. So the initial responsibility is with the applicant themselves. They are responsible for their, but the plans are from, and we have about 7 grade A carpenters, and they are distributed amongst the 4 divisional commissioners, and of course 1 or 2 in the headquarters in Suva. These are the ones that will provide technical assistance to them if need be. But for Post Winston, again, subject to the recovery framework, most of the work will probably be sourced out to the private sector. And people have already bidded for the reconstruction work, Madam Speaker.